You've probably heard of the term a humpback or a buffalo hump or even a dowager's hump. And you likely see this every single day, and maybe you're even affected by this. Ultimately, what this is a hump at the top of your back or at the back of your neck caused from a collapse somewhere in your body where the effect is that hump. What's the cause? Well, I'm going to explain to you the cause, the system that you need to address, and routine that you can follow daily to help rid this from your body. Firstly, the cause. What is the cause of this hump at the top of your back or the back of your neck? Well, it's ultimately posture. Look how we're all seated all day at a desk in front of a computer or on our phones with our heads literally looking down. That's eventually going to cause this hump in the back. But what is the system and why does the tissue decide to migrate into that area that is causing this hump? Well, we have to think of the fascia system because it's not that just fat is starting to crawl at the top of your back. It's really displaced fascia, which is displaced connective tissue. With every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. With every cause, there's an effect. So if I collapse initially within my low belly, guess what's happening? Now my low ribs are starting to cave in towards my core. My shoulders will internally rotate. Then my head and my neck will start to protrude forwards. So as soon as you do this and you're in that poor posture daily, weekly, every month, and then for years, if not decades, then of course you're gonna have this unless you're actually decompressing and correcting this issue. First thing we need to address is how we've collapsed. So if we started collapsing in the lower belly, we need to start there because that's where it's going to be the most dense. And then what we need to do is open up the rib cage, open up the shoulders, and then we can work more directly in the head and the neck. We have this downward pull of fascia that can hold us out of alignment with a force of up to 2,000 pounds per square inch. So if you think that you can just do some corrective exercises, really this can be causing and making an issue actually worse. The first thing we need to do is what? Release the connective tissue. Then what do we have to do? Well, we have to understand what our posture should actually look like and the proper biomechanics of the body. Next, we need to start strengthening the weaknesses. So of course, certain muscles in the body are weak and we have to make sure that they're strong so we can actually use them properly to bring us into that upright posture. So you're most likely here because you want to get rid of this hump for aesthetic reasons, and I don't blame you, I would too. We also have to realize that this isn't just an aesthetic issue. This is a collapse, as I mentioned, which is blocking major roadways throughout the entire body, especially your carotid arteries, which are these major arteries feeding your brain. So if you're blocked off and shut off in this area, we need to open up these gates of flow and allow proper flow to the brain. Make sure you stay to the end because I have a bonus position for you and an entire routine for you to follow every single day to help rid that dowager's hump. So the first thing we're gonna do is a position to release a certain area in the body. Then what we're gonna do is strengthen most likely that opposite area because that's important. And then we're going to do this a few different times in certain areas of the body so that you can really have a good understanding of what it's like to release your connective tissue and to strengthen your body to actually make lasting change, because you don't want to just be strengthening. We need to release and then strengthen. And then what do we have to do to maintain this? Understand proper posture. So if you're at a desk all day, and I'm at a desk for many hours a day, I have to be conscious of my posture, but also I'm standing for a large portion of the day too. And if I'm looking at my phone, I can't have my head down like this all day because that will cause that hump as well. So we're gonna go over posture routine at the end. So let's jump into the first position. So I mentioned the initial collapse within the belly. So that is where we want to release first. So grab your rolled up towel, which will look something like this, and make sure you roll it up nice and tight, or you can use your block from Block Therapy, which of course I would highly recommend. So let's position the towel or the block flat on the floor, horizontal to your mat, and nice and slowly bring yourself directly over top of the block. Now, what we want to do is start off by focusing on the inhalation phase of the breath. As you inhale, expand your belly in towards the block. As you exhale, make your belly nice and small. And of course, you can start up on your elbows like this, and then once you settle in, you can bring yourself flat to the floor. What we want to do is actually search for pain or sensations in our body that we're unconsciously aware of. Because if we're not doing this position, we don't necessarily feel pain in this area, but as we're in this position, we'll start feeling that sensation. That's the pain that's trapped, and that's the tension that we need to release. So now let's focus on the exhalation phase of the breath. As you exhale, feel the block or the towel sinking deeper within your belly, and that's probably where you will feel more of the pain, and that's a good thing. So let's exhale of 6 counts, inhale of 4 counts. After the 3 minutes is up, place your hands on your shoulders and exhale up and off. So now that we released that downward pull in the front, now we want to strengthen some muscles in the back, but we don't want to start right up at the top of the back. We got to start fixing that thoracic spine and even that lower back as well. So let's start off with a back extension. Let's lay flat on your front, hands by your side, directly on the floor. Now let's first off engage those glutes. When you engage the glutes, you should feel your pelvis tucking in that posterior alignment. Now let's bring the arms and the hands by your side flat on the floor. And what we're wanting to do is a back extension. So let's slowly lift the head and the neck and your chest up and off of the floor, but make sure that you're not using your arms and pushing. This is a back exercise, not an arm exercise. Now let's come on back down. Let's try that again, nice and slow. Let's come on up. Feel every vertebrae working as you're coming up because we want to strengthen all areas of the back. And don't worry, you might not get far off of the floor. Let's just start off nice and slow and respect your limits. Next, we're going to be jumping into our second block therapy position. So we worked lower down. Now we're traveling up quite a bit higher in the rib cage, and we're going to be doing the side upper ribs. This is right where the lats and the serratus are located. So this is a very important area to release. Once we release this, it's very important that we start strengthening the shoulder blades in their correct alignment. So let's start off on the left side. Let's bring the towel or your block directly in line with that shoulder blade, which is approximately nipple height, and bring it to your left side. Nice and slow, come on down, and you can bend your left elbow and rest your head in your hand. And all we're gonna do is connect to that breath. Same rules apply. Let's nice and slowly start searching for some pain, some sensation, some tension. And as soon as you find a more painful area, hang out there and breathe. We want to connect to that proper diaphragmatic breath while we're connecting to that pressure and the pain to actually cause that release. And then of course you can search towards the front, then you can search a little bit more towards the back as well and release all of these areas. The slower you move, of course, the deeper you will get. So don't roll quick like a foam roller. That's only going to stay on the surface layers of our connective tissue. Once you spent those 3 minutes, top hand in front of you, exhale up and off, and make sure you repeat this on the other side. Now that we've released a lot of tension around the shoulder blades, the upper ribs, the serratus, the lats, now we want to start creating some strength in this area. So first thing we have to understand is shoulder blade protraction, and that's what this looks like. So in order to do this, we need to start strengthening the serratus by doing these scapular push-ups. These are something that I perform pretty much before every workout. So all we're gonna do is come onto all fours like this. First thing we wanna do is push the shoulder blades away from the spine, but make sure that you're not bending the elbows, keep them straight the entire time. So now let's push the shoulder blades far away from the spine, and then let's hold that and let's come on back down and slowly bring the shoulder blades towards the spine. Make sure you're not shrugging the shoulders up towards the ear. You want to keep those shoulders depressed. So now that they're closer to the spine, again, checking with the elbows, make sure that they're not bending. Now let's push the shoulder blades away from the spine and try to come a little bit further. This exercise is going to stabilize the shoulders significantly more and help practice protraction of the shoulder blades and to keep them depressed, because a lot of the time they're shrugged up and elevated, and that can contribute to that dowager's hump. The next position we're jumping into is the pec position. And honestly, it's a lot more difficult to do this with the rolled up towel. So I would highly recommend using the block. If you don't have a block and you want to check it out, go to blocktherapy.com. First thing we want to do is position the block just like this on the inside of the shoulder joint. This is right where that pec minor is located. This area gets extremely tight from having that rounded shoulders all day. So we need to really open this area up and just bring everything back and down. Now, nice and slow, let's start on that left side. Let's bring that left pec directly over top of the block, and let's start off by connecting to that breath. Now, once you're here, you don't have to rush into this, but let's start creating some small movements with that left arm. You can bring that left arm up and off the floor. You can slowly bring that arm down towards your feet. You can bring it up towards your head. Again, everyone's unique on how their tissue grips and holds. So you got to search and find where your restrictions are, where typically is where the pain is located. So now once you spent a minimum of 3 minutes, nice and slow, bring that hand under your shoulder, exhale up and off, bring the block or the towel over to your right side and repeat this process. Now that we've released that forward pull in the shoulders, now we want to start strengthening more of those muscles in the mid and upper back, specifically those lower trap fibers. So this is such an important exercise to do. I call these the dynamic W's, and you've probably seen these before. I'm going to show these up against the wall, but of course you can do this laying flat on the back on the floor, which may be simpler for you. First thing, have your back up against the wall. Make sure that your feet, your pelvis, your shoulder blades, your head, your elbows, and your hands are all touching the floor. I know that's a lot, but trust me, that's really important. The whole time we're doing this exercise, make sure that your core is braced and you're not letting that go, meaning that your core is engaged as if I were to punch you in the stomach, kindly, of course. Now what we want to do is nice and slow, bring the elbows down towards the floor, and you're going to feel this. It's going to be painful. It will feel weak and you might feel frustrated doing this. And then what we're going to do is nice and slowly bring the arms up towards the ceiling as high as you can. Again, respect your limits. You don't have to do full range of motion to start, but anything at this point helps, and you will only improve the more that you perform this exercise. And make sure when you're performing these dynamic W's that nothing is coming up off of the wall. That's really important. We want to make sure that we're strengthening the body in its correct alignment and really triggering and firing up the right muscles and creating strength in that area. Okay, so for the bonus position, I love doing this. This is extremely relaxing. Let's grab your rolled up towel or your block. Let's lay flat on your back and let's position the towel or the block directly under your shoulder blades, just like this. Make sure that your shoulder blades and your pelvis is flat on the floor. And if you can't reach the floor quite yet, that is okay. Again, respect your limits. But this is really gonna help create more of that arch in your thoracic spine and just feel relaxing. So you can stay here for a minute, 3 minutes, really however long as you would like. And then when you're ready, you can lift the pelvis up, take the towel or the block from underneath, or you can exhale and roll over to one side. Following this routine, you just released a ton of tension in the body and you started to create a lot of strength in all the right areas. Now what we want to do is maintain this. And how do we do that? It's through proper posture. So when you're seated at a desk, this is what you want to do. Make sure your feet are flat on the floor, parallel to each other, not splayed outwards like this, with your knees at a 90 degree, but then we want to make sure that these low ribs aren't collapsed too much. Make sure that they're in that neutral alignment in that brace core position. And now we talked about shoulder blade protraction. So let's bring the shoulder blades into that protracted state. Now let's bring the head of the neck back slightly like this. And now let's envision that string pulling you from the top of the head to the ceiling. This is really just gonna set everything into that proper alignment. So even if I don't remember any of these steps, that string pulling me up, things just start to naturally go into that proper alignment. Now that you have a good understanding of the block therapy positions to follow and the exercises to accommodate that, here's the routine to follow. Starting with the belly position, spend a minimum of 3 minutes here. You can spend longer if you would like, but I'm going to leave that up to you. Next, you're going to be following this with the back extensions. Do 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions. Then we move on to the upper side rib position. Spend 3 to 5 minutes here, similar to the belly position. And then we're following this with the scapular push-ups. So do 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions as well. Then we move on to the pec positions. So spend 3 to 5 minutes in each position on each side. And then we do the dynamic W's. So do 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions. And then we just finish off with that mid-back position, which is very relaxing. Again, you can spend 3, 5, 10 minutes as long as you really like in that position. And then repeat this routine daily if you can. There's a ton of different exercises out there that you can perform, but make sure you're performing them correctly. And if you're not sure what to do, stick with these exercises I showed you. But more important than that, we gotta be doing these fascia decompression block therapy positions. This is what's crucial. If we don't release the tension, remember, we're being constantly pulled out of alignment with our connective tissue if we have a dowager's hump and if we're at a desk all day. So we wanna make sure we release all of this tension and not just focusing on the strengthening, because that can build yourself further out of alignment, and honestly, it can add to more tension in the body, which can cause to more issues down the line. So make sure you're releasing your connective tissue, follow that up with the corrective exercises, and then of course make sure that you cement all of this and prevent these issues from reoccurring by following the proper posture and how to sit at a desk properly. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video. If you liked it and you found it helpful, make sure you like and subscribe. If you have any comments, please leave them below. And any future video ideas, please let me know in the comments below as well. Anyways, we'll see you in the next video.